Review bombing. That is what The Last of Us Part 2 has been receiving from the internet and everyone possible right now. In case you haven't heard, The Last of Us Part 2 was spoiled, and what people saw when they saw the spoiler alert before the game was released, they didn't like it, and now that the game has released, everybody has proceeded, whether or not they actually have bought or played the game, is going on to websites like Metacritic, and they are review bombing the you-know-what out of The Last of Us Part 2. And you know what I have to say to all those people that feel the need to review bomb a video game just because it's not the way you wanted the game to be? You just grow up and stop being an entitled little pissant. And I'm sorry if that sounds really rude, but this type of thing is just embarrassing. This is the type of thing that makes me ashamed to be a gamer. Because when people do stuff like this, it just shows you just how petty you actually are. I kind of feel bad for all of the Naughty Dog developers out there who spent years and years of their lives developing this game just to have a bunch of people get pissed off because they chose to look at spoilers for the game, mind you, beforehand, and give this game a 0 out of 10 without even playing or buying the game. And some of these people did buy the game and say how they played it for a few hours and are officially claiming that it sucks, and they're still willing to give it a 1 out of 10, which is mind-boggling to me. How can you give this game a 1 out of 10? Because I am playing the same game, and yes, there are actually some plot points in this game that are a little bit off-putting, I will admit that. But when it comes to the soundtrack and the sound design, the graphics, the gameplay, the voice acting, all of these things that I have mentioned above are spectacular. There is so much to love so far in this game. I am currently 10 hours in, and I am loving my experience overall. But maybe that's because, unlike everybody else, I kind of went into this with an open heart and willing to give Naughty Dog a chance. I mean, this is the company, after all, that gave us Crash Bandicoot, and gave us the Uncharted series, and gave us a spectacular game that everyone loves known as The Last of Us. So maybe I was willing to let them try to express themselves in a manner and see where the cards roll. And after looking at this game from a non-biased perspective, it's a really, really good game, and I can see why all of these major companies are giving this game 9s and 10 out of 10s. It's a really well done game. I hate to break this to you, but if you go into a game expecting to hate it and wanting to hate it, and then you start to play it, what do you think is going to happen? You're just going to magically fall in love with it and say, wow, this is the greatest thing ever, boy, was I wrong? That doesn't usually happen. If you go into a game expecting to hate the game, chances are you are most likely going to hate said game. And if that is your mindset going into The Last of Us Part 2, then that's your problem and not the game developers. It just really irritates me that people are willing to go to these lengths to voice their displeasure over something that ultimately in the end isn't going to affect or change their lives in any meaningful way. And I hate to break it to you guys, whether you like it or not, The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be considered a masterpiece of a game. And whether you like it or not, it's going to sell millions and millions of copies. And whether you like it or not, The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be a Game of the Year contender. Because you know why? It's a really well done game. And I will be putting up my review of this game once I finish it, and I will give it my honest and truthful opinion as to whether I like it, dislike it, the things I love about it, and the things I hate about it. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be a 1 out of 10. It's not going to be even a 3 out of 10. It is easily a good game. It doesn't take anybody with even a remote sense of a brain to figure out that The Last of Us Part 2 is a well-done, polished video game. You want to see what a 0 out of 10 game looks like? Go play Pure Electric Love and get back to me. I am Bradley Overrated, out like a trout, and I am glad I picked up The Last of Us Part 2.